Hello, everyone.
Hi,
My name is Paul Scrivens,
I'm Marybeth Santos.
and welcome to season 1, episode 1 of Noodle podcast. And to let you guys on a quick background about us and podcasting, I have no intent to edit podcasts or do any of that stuff. People say, "Oh, you should just hire someone else to do it." Why don't we just talk and then we just upload it and that's it? Because all you really care about is the information and if something's valuable in there and everything, right? We don't need a fancy intro
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, until season 2, right? Season 1's always the pilot, and then season 2, you're like, oh, like now we got the network contracts and all that kind of stuff, and
Now you're making me nervous.
so the purpose of this podcast is when at On Noodle, we the easy way to say it is we teach you how to build an online business. The bigger picture that we have though is being able to create your own freedom. Just be able to live life the way you want to do it. And to do that requires money. And so what we do is we help you learn how to make money in a way that you enjoy, in a way that is scalable. So we like the idea of lots of money and all that kind of stuff. So Marybeth has chosen the season 1, episode 1 topic, and it is types of digital products.
Yes.
Why did you choose this?
Technically, I chose it because it's a blog post that we're working on, and I want to do podcast plus YouTube video plus blog post. So we have everything captured. But also it's super important to kind of differentiate the different types of digital products, because one of the big problems that I have on TikTok is a lot of people think digital products. They think printables to sell on Etsy, wall art, ebooks like the blank journals or planners that you can put on Amazon. But there's so much more than that. And there's so much like the other part, the so much more is like so much better for you, like money wise to create. There's so many other possibilities.
Correct. All the ones that you mentioned are digital products. And that's it's funny because I could say like our realm of teaching is in digital products, but we're informational digital products.
Right.
And if for those of you like, oh, like what's the difference? Well, if I sell wall art on Etsy, I might be selling it for $1, $2, $3. If I'm creating a book on how to create wall art, then I might sell that book for $10, $20 or something, right? And so it's almost putting the same amount of effort into something, but people will pay more for knowledge and everything versus just something that could be looked at as a commodity and everything.
Right.
And so this is not us saying, oh no, don't go create digital wall art. It's more, if you create digital wall art, why not also supplement it with something that you could charge more for and everything. And the funny thing about digital products is that there's so many different kinds that I often forget about the like it's not second nature for me to create like the smaller ones that I could say, oh, this would be a nice supplement to these kind of things, because we create a ton of stuff. But in my head, for example, I'll never go, oh, we should create a checklist.
Right.
Just because I don't know. It's just
Or
not
workflows
in
or
me. Right. It's just not in me for that. But other people will sell checklists, workbooks, and they'll make a killing, and I'll sit there and I'll go, damn it. Yeah, it's something simple as that. That should be created.
Right. And that's exactly what, like, the list goes from like those super simple things through, I've got a list of 10, and actually there's so many more than 10 even, but I've got a list of 10.
Right.
We've got listed like the top thing is printables, and literally just within printables, there's so many different things that you can do. Like a printable could be an ebook. A printable could be a checklist. It could be a workbook. It could be wall art. There's a million different things under that.
This. I've never liked the term printable.
Yeah.
Because what does it mean? Like, right? It's just something you can print. Technically, you can print absolutely anything.
Yeah.
That's on your computer and everything. So people used to come to us as like, oh, I want to create printables, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean at all.
Right.
And it was understandable because I don't know if it's still a big thing, but I know back then when people were coming to us, they were coming to us from Pinterest and they would see other people like, and for those listening or watching this podcast, you've seen these people who like how to make it easy $10,000 a month with a printable, how to make it easy $10,000 a month with Etsy, how to make it easy $10,000 a month with digital products and everything.
Right.
And the easy part and the part that sucks people in is the creation. Like, oh, that's super easy to create.
Mm-hmm.
And you fall into this trap of just because I created it, we think of the most positive outcome that can happen. I created this thing, people are gonna find it and just buy it.
Right.
That's all that's required. People find it and they buy it. That's how
And
they
especially when you are learning from someone who was like, they seem just like you. Like I know the people that I was looking at in the beginning, it was like moms to young, who have young kids. And I'm like, wait, they did that. I can totally do that. And then when it doesn't work, you're like, what the heck?
right. No, there's like it's like 10% of the story is ever
Right.
told. And that part is like,
Mhm.
okay, you create this and then you put it on Etsy. So far everything makes sense. And that's the problem. It makes sense. And because it makes sense to you, it's like, oh, okay, that seems very logical because I just go in Canva. Canva has amazing templates. I can easily create something in Canva. Okay, I understand that. I export it. Okay, I understand that. I set up Etsy store. I understand that. Put it on Etsy. I understand that. Etsy has a ton of traffic. I understand that part. So all I have to do is there. I'm done.
Yeah.
Etsy will provide. The Etsy will provide. If I'm kind to Etsy, the Etsy will provide and everything. And
Well,
that's where kind of people sort of
yes. If
get
I had a
hit the
dollar for
hurdle.
every time someone said, Etsy sends you traffic, Amazon sends you traffic, I would
Right.
be super rich.
Right. And for those who still have that mentality, think of it like this. You're not the only one uploading to Etsy every day, right? And Etsy and Amazon's job is to go, we want people to love us. So Etsy says, we want people to love Etsy. And for people to love Etsy, we have to show them things that we think they will like. And so Etsy has a profile on all these people. They know, okay, these people like this. They bought from this store. They like these kind of things. You're brand new. They know nothing about you. Etsy isn't going to go, oh, we're going to put you front and center. You're brand new. We're going to put you front and center and risk our whole reputation on this brand new person. And so it doesn't work that way and everything. And so what happens is you'll hear the Etsy people, well, you got to nail down SEO,
Yeah.
which is true. Like, okay, like you
Yeah.
got to do decent with SEO and everything. And that's why the Etsy people say, well, you got to do the research on the products and you got to find those things that nobody has touched yet. And then that just becomes this endless game of, okay, I have to keep on finding these new type of offers, these new type of products that I don't really know anything about. I don't really care about. And I'm just going to put them up. Okay. Now I put those up. Now what I got to do next week? Oh, I got to do the same thing over again and everything. Right. And for
And
some people, that's okay. Like it makes sense for some people. I think where we deviate from that is we're looking at what we can do for the next 10 years. And if we're going to do something for 10 years, do we want to do that thing where we're just constantly chasing different types of products where people just don't think about us after they buy it? Or do we want to build something brand wise where we come first in mind and people just always come to us for something no matter what?
right. And that chase that's involved with, like, if you're making printables, you're putting it on Etsy, there's like a constant chase to be the person that's showing up at the top of the search, or the person that's got that brand new thing that nobody else has thought of. It's like a never ending kind of like path to, I'm sure, burnout at some point.
Right, right. And so I'll do a good example here. There's this other brand that we have called Odd Wonderful where we create different worlds and everything. At some point, I would love to utilize Etsy by taking one of the worlds and creating different stickers and cute things for it. And so we would put an Etsy store up for that and everything. But what we would do is not go, okay, well, we're going to wait for Etsy to drive traffic. We would pull the traffic we get from all other Odd Wonderful social medias and drive them to Etsy,
Right.
to our store. And then what happens then? Etsy goes, wait, there are people going to this store. There are people buying from this store and everything. this is a signal to us. Now we will start sending people to that store and everything. So that's when Etsy would start sending traffic to us. But it would not be us sitting down on our hands waiting for that to happen, because it just doesn't happen and everything. Again, unless we master the SEO of Etsy and hit those unique things. But again, it doesn't make sense for us to go down that route. And so that's what you have to be careful when the digital.
Etsy is a bigger fish than is a bigger fish to fry than people make it seem like. All right. Number 2, digital product. I'm curious. I don't know. I feel like this could be your favorite, but I don't know. Courses. I can tell you it's not mine, and I'll tell you 2 reasons.
Go on.
Okay. Number 1 reason courses are not my favorite is I don't like them because of the length of time they take to create, and because of the there's just a bigger learning curve. So for me, like for the people that I love to help are kind of more in the beginning stages, and courses they're a lot to tackle. Like you got to really know what you're doing. It's a different thing to sell a course. It's a different thing to create a course than something simple like an ebook we're going to talk about later. So while they're great, they're also, as a creator, they're not the most fun to have to update constantly, but those are my reasons.
I mean, I 100% agree with all those. I think when we're talking about favorites for digital product wise, I think I would have to break them up into categories for certain things, and I'll explain why. So like courses are my favorite in this reason, in that, when I like to teach things, I teach more bigger picture, holistic, the whole thing. I can be more nuanced. Courses allow me to be more nuanced with certain things. So I can say, okay, I really want to dive deep into this one particular aspect of this thing, and I can go on side quest with a course and everything. And so that aspect I love about them. I do agree from both the creator and the consumer standpoint that they can be too big and overwhelming for some people. I love big courses. Like I just love to sit down and look and see. As a consumer, I love to sit down and be like, okay, this thing looks comprehensive. I can go through it. That's just my learning style and everything. But I understand that's not the learning style for everyone. And so that's why in that respect, I could put courses in the fact that I can, again, add all those details and be nuanced. And I also like the idea that with a course, the production value is valued and everything. So like if you sit down and you can record super nice videos and everything, it leaves a big impact on someone from a brand standpoint, just memorable standpoint. Like, okay, like I paid $500 for this. This makes sense for me to go to. And that's probably, okay. And that's another price-wise favorite has to be courses over something like a book. Right. And that's why I said we're going to have to break these up into different quadrants and categories and everything. Because if you're like, oh, what's your favorite? Like with regards to price, it's like, okay, I could sell a $500, $1,000 course and just sell a couple of those, versus when we'll talk about ebooks and all that kind of stuff and break those down. So I've gotten away from, I will say I have gotten away from my default thinking, like the first thing I have to do is create a course. Like that's what I've gotten away from. But I still, like I said, I just love courses because they can be that comprehensive thing that could go through. But I totally agree with you. Like they're a pain in the ass to create. They can be fun to create, but there are some parts that are like this sucks. And the fact that it does take time. Like you don't get that. Like you got to be like, okay, I'm ready to invest this amount of time before I even see any type of result or outcome. From it.
And there's so many reasons to like stumble and hit a roadblock that, and with the length of time that it takes to create a course, you're just gonna, it's like there's just more and more as you're waiting to get that thing finished. But that's why at some point I feel like everybody should have a course potentially.
And that's why we always recommend, like, course should not be the first thing you create. Like that again, that's something I will agree with and I'll run with. All that kind of stuff. So.
Get something like an ebook under your belt first, which is the next one on the list, ebooks, which For me, it's not my favorite digital product. I don't even know if my favorite is on the list. I can't remember. But I do love ebooks because they can be super quick. They can be like there's nothing fancy that you have to use necessarily to create one. I write all of mine in Google Docs except for one workbook that I did in Canva. And there's a lot of different things that you can do that would technically still be an ebook.
Right. Ebook's funny because okay, now we definitely have to. I don't know what these quadrants are that we break these digital products into, but I can say like ebook is not my favorite to create. Again, because I will sit down and I'll start writing, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna dive deeper into this, but I'm like, oh, this adds another 20 pages or that many words to it. And I'm like, okay, now this book is just basically a transcript for a whole course, so I have to be
Right.
careful on that kind of thing and everything. But a book for me is my favorite to present to an audience because it's so simple to understand. Like, this is the book, this is the thing for it and everything, right? With a course that we're selling over $200, $300, $500, it's like, no, I got to make sure I educate, I make sure I present, and it's all worth it. Like, I'm not saying this to detract, like all that's worth it. But with a book, I can go, this book does this one thing, it's $30, take it or leave it. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to sit here trying to oversell you on it. I mean, I'll do my best selling it, but I'm not going to try to oversell you on it. I'm not going to try to convince you and everything because it's a book.
Right.
It's a book. Take it or leave it. And everything. The second point with selling it, and it's what we do now, is being able to package it in those tiers
Mm-hmm.
and everything. And so I think if it was just creating the book and be like, okay, we're selling books for $19, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but we know there's volume involved and everything. And I'm like,
Right.
and that becomes kind of draining to me. But now when it's like, okay, well, here's this $19 thing, and it's or $49 thing or $99 thing, then I'm like, yeah, we create books all day. We can go to town creating books and everything. But yeah, so that's my book. Thing. And what we teach is we suggest everyone first thing should be a book, or a book should be some aspect of
Yeah.
the offer in some way.
Yeah. I just had somebody come to me yesterday during a live and literally said, my 57-page ebook is now 195 pages. Oh, like time to go back and look at what did it start out as? What was that one thing that you were writing the book about that you were going to help somebody with in that book? And what has it now become? Like if it's way beyond that scope, then, that's one of the things that's great about an ebook is like you want to pull yourself back in. If you've started to like go all over the place on that topic, that's not the place to do that. Do that in the course or, wherever else you want to do it. But the ebook, nice.
Rarely do you want like the most comprehensive ebook ever. Like usually, like if with your own business, I would say the safer bet would be to just break up the ebook in just a lot of different ebooks. And you might be like, oh, that's too many ebooks. And it's how you present it. Well, you can sell them all individually, or you could package them all up, whatever. But the idea is you want your audience to go through the material and everything.
Yeah.
And so if I see a 57-page ebook, I'm like, oh, I can scroll through that. I see a 200-page ebook, and it's like, already, I'm sitting here like it's time. Like I'm trying to figure out how I commit the time to it. Like which parts did I go through? What do I remember? And all that kind of stuff. And I guess it could be different. Like if we did we have a book on Midjourney, I could see like the first maybe like the 20 pages are all the technical stuff, and then like here's 180 pages of just images, like different images and different prompts to go through.
And that's like what you just said is whatever you're going to pick is always something to keep in mind. Because you were like, if I see a 57-page ebook, I'm like, yeah, I'll skim through that. Or if you see a 200-page, you're like, ooh, that's too much. It's the same thing. Like if you are like, we talk about our friend who makes freezer mail planning guides. They're printable guides. It's a PDF, an ebook. If she created like the freezer mail planning course, the people that are buying from her would be like, course. I don't have time for a course. Like they're super busy moms. They're not sitting down to take a course. We'll print something off and I'll bring it to the grocery store with me. That works perfectly.
Right.
Very perfectly for her. Okay, workshops. I've never done a live workshop by myself. I really am regretting saying that out loud.
I love workshops. For me, workshops are the quickest thing that I can create, but that's just probably me personally. I'm not saying for it, but I mean, Marybeth has seen me like, okay, we got to do a workshop, and I'll run through some slides, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Let's do the workshop and present. Another reason why I like the workshops is obviously the connection aspect
Mhm.
of me doing a live workshop and being able to talk to the audience and having that back and forth, and everything. And I think for us, and I noticed this because we did a call yesterday, with some of our students. It kind of just hit me where I think we are good with our knowledge that we share, and I think what we do is some of the top stuff. Do we always present it in the best way? Probably not, and there's a lot of work that we still have to do. But because we have our personalities and we connect with our people, it feels like that raises our score up so much for a lot of people versus like someone that might have like super professional design and all these beautiful pictures and like hardcore a team behind them and all. It's like, oh no, I'm talking to Scrivs and Marybeth, and so the way I view their stuff, kind of has that bias. I like them, so I view their stuff with a bias. That's not saying our stuff isn't good. I think our stuff is great, but I think it weighs on that. So when I do a workshop and I'm able to do that connection with people and everything, they see that information through my lens of, okay, I like this guy. Hopefully, he's I'm having a blast talking to him, and so now I see that information in a new way
Yeah.
and everything. Versus I've been through workshops where I'm like, this information might have been great, but they're so boring
You
and
said,
put me to sleep. Like that's just how I view it,
yeah.
right? So it's like going back to school and thinking about like, oh, I remember my great teachers, and it's like, well, they were great because of their charisma and everything. It's not because
Mhm.
they were teaching stuff out of textbook, so everybody had the same textbook and everything. And so that's why I like workshops, but that's also why workshops aren't for everyone. That's
Yeah.
just
I always use the example of our friend Danielle, who um, finally got like started with TikTok, and she just like her account just blew up and she grew really, really fast. And she was like, well, I guess I need to do a product. And she like super brave to do as your very first digital product. She's like, I'm going to offer these guys a live workshop. It's going to be $69 and I'm going to do it on this day. That takes a lot of guts to just
right.
be like, this is what I'm doing. But that's what she did. And the other thing that is great about that is then she packaged it after and sold it evergreen too.
Right. And so when I say like workshops are easy, it's literally all I do is hop in Google Slides, create the slides. If there's a worksheet to do or workbook, like you create that as a side, but then it's hop on Zoom or whatever platform you want to record, and you're ready to go. Like that's
Yeah.
it. Um, and everything. So it feels like there's less preparation. And I don't know if they're easier to sell, but it feels like they're easier to sell, pre-sell, I should say. It feels like they're easier to pre-sell. I mean, you technically have to pre-sell, I guess, if you're going live, because you just get to say, I'm doing something live. It's on this topic, gonna go through it.
Yeah.
And so it's not the prestige as a course, but it's more prestigious than a book. So it's like in that
Right.
middle ground where people
Yeah.
be like, oh, this is going to be like, it's a workshop. Okay, I'll sign up for a workshop. This is going to be good and everything
Right.
because I expect to get this and everything.
And it allows that video aspect. Like, so if you actually have a topic, like we don't really have a topic that requires video necessarily, and maybe for technical lockers, but if you do have something that requires video, then workshop is usually perfect.
Right. Like crafting and stuff like that. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Like our stained glass friend could do workshops on different
You're
things.
making it sound like we have a lot of friends. Just a lot of
Yeah, we call them. All right. I don't know.
our girlfriend in Canada. That's what it's
They're
starting to sound
fans.
like.
In Canada. She's in Pennsylvania. Danielle's in Washington. I know my friends. Okay. All right, I'm going off. I'm going rogue off the list now on the next one because the next one is basically the same as a workshop. But what I don't have on the list, I don't know how I left this off, is challenges, and that is my favorite. And it's my favorite and also my least favorite at the same time. Challenges are very little work in the beginning, and then once it starts, it's an enormous, an unbelievable amount of work in the middle of it, depending on what you do to yourself. As far as like how involved you as a creator are in the day-to-day aspects of the challenge. But I love challenges for the audience, like from the audience's perspective, because they are like exciting. There's like that community aspect of them. There's that kind of like positive peer pressure to a challenge. And it's usually like it should be a very defined goal at the end. Like we had our TikTok challenge. You go from 0 to 1,000 followers in 30 days. It's such an easy like thing for your audience to picture. Like, yeah, that's the outcome that I need. Challenge, perfect. I love it. So I love challenges, but they can be a ton of work for sure.
Challenges are my least favorite. And it's probably my fault why they're my least favorite. I was going to say in one aspect, and you mentioned this, I love before the challenge starts, the excitement everyone has, like, we're going to do this thing. This is amazing. Everybody's hyped and you feel that energy and it's amazing. But this is also why they're my least favorite, because a large percentage of people will just not go through them.
Yep.
And that's just human. Again, I can say this, I have no doubt that there's some things I could do better, but it's also just human nature where that dopamine just dies down over like, okay, I was excited and I could picture like what's going to happen at the end of the challenge. I'm excited because it feels like I'm doing something. And then, oh, now I actually have to do it.
Right.
I don't know about that and everything. And so that it kills my spirits each time. Right. Because I'll go through and I'm like, we got 100 people going through this. And then halfway through, you're like, okay, there's 15 people.
Yeah.
And I'll still bring the energy and help them. But it's like, I'm looking back at like, it's me looking back at the finish line. Like, why aren't these people running with us? Like, why aren't they like, come on, like, I want to pull them and it just doesn't happen and everything. And like I said, I'm sure there's a million things that, I can continue to do better with challenges and all that kind of stuff. But it's almost like when you've done all these things long enough, and it's the same thing with courses and everything. Like you create a course and you want to see everybody go through it, but then you see the engagement numbers and you're like, okay, not everybody's going through it. Why isn't everybody going through it? They paid for this. And you start feeling guilty because you're like, no, you paid for this. Why would you pay for this and not do this? Like, this makes no sense.
Right. In a course, you can kind of like not look at it. You can just kind of not look at those, the bars showing the progress. But you cannot escape in the challenge. You're totally right about that.
So I think a challenge, I think it would work well for me. Then this is me personally, everyone. This is like just the way my partly ego and feelings work. I would probably have to get a large number of people to sign up. So then at least, I don't know, like let's say if only 10% ever go through it. So at least that 10% is still a large chunk of people. So if it's like, okay, I gotta get like 1,000 people to sign up, then I know at least 100 people, which is plenty, will go through the whole thing and I'll still feel excitement vibing off those 100 people and all that kind of stuff. Everything. But when it's like you get 50 people to sign up, like, okay, 50 people, I'm going to knock it out. And then it's like 7 go through. You're like, oh, like, what's going on here?
I'm just starting to say, we'll have to think about how we can not have, like, how do we make that number better? But
I mean, I would quick tips. Because our challenges are usually 30 days. That's for most people, that's just too much, not because they're not capable, but again, it's a total mindset thing. And mentally, you just have to be prepared and psyched for it and everything. And I just don't think once people like trip up, they just stop, right? Kind of something like they see other people and they're like, oh, I missed a day. No, I guess I'm done. Like I'm out.
And also not just like, oh, I missed a day, but also like, oh, we're doing the exact, I did it 7 days in a row. She did it 7 days in a row. She's got 10,000 followers all of a sudden, and I'm still at 500. Like, what happened? What's wrong with, like, just in that one example about TikTok? But sometimes it can be like seeing that comparison so clearly can be difficult in a challenge too for people.
Right. So I would like to see us do I would like to see us try like 5 to 7 day challenges.
That's a good idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's see what happens. The problem and the reason why we haven't done 5 to 7 day challenges is more because of the topics that we cover and we try to help people with. Like a lot of stuff we do, because with a challenge, you want a specific outcome. It's very hard for us to say, you're going to get this outcome in 5 days.
Yeah.
And everything. Okay. So we'd have to think about that.
Yeah. All right. 10 more minutes in our 30-minute podcast. It's supposed to be 30 minutes. Templates. We've never done templates before until this past, like one of the most recent things we've done. We did some ebook templates, like super simple ones in Google Docs, because we don't believe in I don't believe in the crazy Canva templates for everything, as far as ebooks go. Templates, I feel like this is my problem with templates. I think a lot of people think templates are like very complicated to make. Like when you call it a template, it feels like this professional thing that you have to have you have to have taken a class or have a degree to be able to create one. But I don't think it's really that. I don't think it is that. Unless I'm just doing it wrong.
No, it difficult to create. No, it's one of those things like difficult to create. No, difficult to make aesthetically pleasing and worth people's time to actually want and everything. Yes. Right. So it's like, is it hard to paint? No, just slap some paint on something. Is it hard to make a good looking painting? Yes.
Yeah.
And everything. And then also I feel like templates are very going to be niche dependent. Like, are they only going to be like how to make money? Like it's hard for me to think of like what other niches would be like, here's a template and everything.
Well, I guess if you transfer a template for pattern, I mean, like technically sewing patterns or templates, anything like that, you could consider. I would kind of put that in that same category.
Right.
But the thing about templates is it's so simple to say use a template because you're going to avoid effort and save time. And those are two things that if you find the right person who really wants to avoid effort or really wants to save time, they will spend money to do that.
So then we're kind of just in that aspect. There's kind of like two levels of templates then, because you might have like what we offer, a Google Doc template, which is just an aesthetic template and everything. Then you might have a sales page template, which does aesthetic, but it's also you have to fill in these things in this order to get that. That's obviously a lot harder to do because one, you have to have a system of like, okay, this is something everybody can follow. This is the result you will get and everything.
Right.
So I can see a lot of people struggling with that. I struggle with that because that's just not how my brain works. And so, working with you and we sit down and we go back and forth. That's probably the only way I'm able to say, okay, like there's actually 5 steps. Yeah. Like subconsciously, I don't know this, but yeah, there's actually 5 steps that we always go through. So let's put these in a template.
Right.
And everything. And so I can see the difficulty for a lot of people in coming that. So that's why I guess I'm always impressed when I see other people have these like 20-page templates for this process. And I'm like, like your brain's a robot. Like that seems unreal. Like how'd you come up with that and everything?
So it's kind of two different, like there's visual, like a visual template that you just are filling in colors or whatever. And then there's visual and content. Like after also filling in the content too. That's obviously, and then like that's 2 different price ranges too, most likely. Something we haven't done, but we kind of are starting to get into a little bit, sort of. Graphics and fonts. Not fonts necessarily, but graphics with our Midjourney stuff that's coming up soon. It's not actually a graphic, but it's creating your own graphics in images and things like that.
Right. And again, this one would be like, again, more niche dependent on what you kind of do. Midjourney kind of makes it interesting in that before offering graphics made sense because it was like, okay, I either got to be a great photographer or I got to know graphic design and all that kind of stuff. So people can do very well making those things. Now with Midjourney, it's like you could still probably do well if people don't know how easy it is to use Midjourney. It feels like it's one of those things, right? Like if you don't know how to use Midjourney or you just don't want to do it, then, but it becomes over time, like how much of that audience is just not going to know it anymore. But there's also the aspect of Midjourney. You just might not know how to get that look for something that you specifically want. So this isn't if you're a graphic designer, this is not me telling you to panic and everything because Midjourney, you can create beautiful things, but you might not get that one look or that one thing that you want particularly. And so it still works for the graphic designer. So yeah, I mean, those are it's a nice and easy digital product and everything, but it's one of those things that it will require volume. And everything.
Same thing. And number 8 is photography and videos. I kind of basically put those in the same category. Number 9, on the other hand, is a beast membership site.
Now that's a whole nother podcast. Yeah, we'll do a whole nother podcast on that.
Let's just give one disclaimer. Do not start with a membership site.
Now, membership site should never be your first thing, unless you're someone who has built up a massive audience, like 100,000 people, and like you just like, oh, now I want to monetize them. Then you might want to do something like that.
Maybe.
That's still a big like asterisk on it. Like it's still big on it. And I only say that because it might be someone like I think about the people on Twitter who would do like stock trading, and they would build up these huge things. They're like, oh, well, if you actually want to get my own, like to watch my daily trades, sign up for the membership.
Yeah.
That like so that's what I mean. Like that's kind of different than people who are just doing straight information stuff, and then like, oh my god, like I did a membership, now every month I got to figure out what I'm going to do, and like it's a lot involved in everything. So no, don't make that the first one and everything. I know we got to speed through, so
I know. Number 10 is swipe files, which we've never done before, and I actually think I have an idea for this for us. But again, is this outside of does this exist outside of the make money niche? It might not.
If we consider like recipe books, swipe files, like things like that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, and I talk about this, or we talk about this in the curator guide type of business, where you're starting off in a niche that you have no skills, no knowledge, or anything, and I say, okay, well, you become a curator, and we'll have to talk about that on a different podcast and everything. But the idea then becomes like, okay, like if I'm just doing curator, how do I make money over time? And it's like, well, you're collecting all these things, you're analyzing all these things, put those in a package together, bam, now you have something. So in essence, that becomes like I would think like a book of case studies.
Case studies. That's exactly what I was thinking too.
A slide file, type of thing. So,
okay. What did we forget? Or is there anything that we didn't talk about that should be on here?
No major ones that I can think of or anything. But in general, we recommend starting with a book, mainly because nowadays with AI, and this is something we teach AI, there's a lot of ways to make it to process quicker and everything. And again, your audience understands a book. It's not hard to sell a book, sell them on the idea of a book. It might be hard to sell the actual, like what's in it and what's it about, but selling the idea of a book is not hard. You can start off with a book, and then over time you can start packaging up with all these other things that we talked about and everything. And it just becomes a good stepping stone to jumpstart your business with.
You could literally say, I'm going to write a book, write it over a weekend, and have it to set up to sell by Monday. And so it just shortens that window of you potentially quitting before it's done. So it's good. That's it. That's our 10 digital products. We'll be back with something else next time.
Yeah. So thanks everyone. Until next time. See you later.
See ya.